Hello, everyone, and welcome back to That's a Wrap. My name is Anthony Gentry, and joining me today is...
Austin Jameson, and we
Hello.
have a lot
We
to
have a
talk
doozy
about.
for you.
Yes.
We have been off the air longer than we would have liked. We had spring break for us, and then other things, they got in the way.
Yes.
But we are back, and don't worry, we are not skipping a thing.
We are not. We have a lot to
Yes.
run through.
We are skipping trailers, because we have a lot.
Yeah, like if you saw the Teenage Kraken one or whatever, and there's like a new Little Mermaid
Yeah,
trailer.
it was a water-filled trailer.
There's not a lot to talk about there. But we have a lot of unrelated things.
So let's get into the shows.
Yes.
So let's start off with, of course, Ted Lasso. I watched the first episode. Okay. It was great. Moving on. I can't wait for it. I love it. Mm-hmm. New episode tonight. Hey. Last of Us.
Yes.
We left off on episode 7.
Yeah.
And so we have 2 more episodes
to briefly talk about. And also
at
we're already
full length.
We're like already a little bit into the episode, but like spoilers for just
yeah, it has been like a week since the last episode, but still.
For also just to kind of like ground y'all out here, we will be doing 4 movies today.
Yeah.
So spoilers just everywhere.
We can save it for Shazam.
We're gonna try to like be careful, but like, or we have. Well, do you want to just like go through the movies we have real quick?
Yes, let's go through.
Okay, we have 65 with Adam Driver.
We have Scream with Ghostface.
Yes, we have
Creed 3, and then Shazam.
2, whatever, the
Fury of the Gods.
So we have a lot to talk about. We're gonna try. We're like, whenever we first start talking about a movie, we're not gonna immediately spoil anything. But that being said, it's gonna be dodgy as we get through it, since there's so much to talk about, and we can't really section it into spoilers as well as we'd probably like to.
Yeah.
So you've been warned. Be careful clicking around the video, because you'll likely get something spoiled for you.
Bro, when Rocky came back in Creed.
Bro.
Hey, Rocky. Or hey, Creed. I'm back. Anyways,
nice one.
Thank you. So yes, we are going to start with full spoilers for The Last of Us.
Yes.
Do you want to time us 7.5 minutes for 2 episodes?
I guess. Do we want to do 10 minutes?
10?
Let's do 10 minutes. Okay.
All right. If you don't want to know anything about The Last of Us, episodes 8 and 9,
correct.
Skip ahead 10 minutes.
Yeah. Starting now. Okay. Episode 8.
I want to start with you because I knew what was going to happen.
I did not.
I played the game. You did not.
I did not.
What did you think?
It was really good. It like.
All right, moving on.
I don't know. I think there's something with narrative streaming shows right now where they start super duper strong and they kind of struggle to like land it.
I agree.
Episode 8 is probably my favorite of the whole show. I think it was phenomenal, and I think it really spoke to what Last of Us is about.
Episode 8 was the one I've been dreading this entire time.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was going to happen, and it's so hard to watch. But you're right, it's so good, too.
It's the most definitive of, like, the theme of The Last of Us, and I think it does a really good job of just, like, covering every base. Episode 9 is the finale, and it's, like, 43 minutes.
It's the shortest episode.
It is. And from what I've heard, they do the like narrative of the game justice, but it still feels rushed just by the nature of things.
It did feel rushed to me too.
And it's not a bad ending. It's an ending that's supposed to be like, what? I
wanted more. Well, first episode 8, like you said, it was amazing. One of the best episodes. I'm not sure if it's the best for me yet. But I loved it so much, especially just seeing the evolution of Joel and Ellie's relationship. Like seeing Joel, who wants to be a changed person, doesn't want to hurt anyone.
Right.
But when the person he loves is in danger, he will torture you to get information. And then same thing with episode 9. He goes back to his old ways to save Ellie. I wanted a lot more of not the beginning with Ellie's mom, but with Joel and Ellie after that like traumatic event and like going through not the motions, but Ellie kind of going through the motions and Joel like trying to cheer her up and things like that.
What event are you talking about?
With David.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that changes Ellie like fundamentally.
Yeah.
And in the game, you do get more time with that to just like soak it in. With the show, they kind of rush past it a little bit. Like they get to the giraffe scene very quickly, which I thought should have came a little later. And the hospital scene, I would have liked a little more, but I also did like how they did it with like not like rushing through it, but Joel just kind of goes numb to it all, doesn't even know what he's doing.
I think they did that well, and I think it got the message across. That being said, whenever like episode 8 sets like the super high bar of like here's because for the most part, and this is like true for the video game, but it's set like separated into its own chapters and whatnot. And so it's like Joel and Ellie go on their little adventure, and then something crazy happens. They overcome that obstacle, and they move on another obstacle. And so we get through obstacle number 8, and then we're going through this episode, and like the flashbang goes off, and like they get captured, and it's like, what now? We're in the final episode, and then it's like immediately, boom, Marlene is here, and it's like, oh, this is the end of our journey.
Game, that happened with like they were in this tunnel system, and Ellie.
Don't get super into the game, because I think I still want to go back and play it for myself. Okay. And I'm curious to see the differences myself.
It was basically this big set piece that happened where Joel had to go save Ellie, like showing again how much he loved her, gets saved, and then they don't get ambushed. They like meet the Fireflies, but then they're like, get on the ground, knock Joel out, and the rest happens.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Do you have any more thoughts about this stuff? I had some, but I forgot them.
Like, just or at least with this specific topic, I think that the hospital scene and like that, just like John Wick going through a hallway, absolutely decimating everybody, is like it's entertaining. The first time, like I watched it through, I've only watched it through once, but I watched it through, and then I don't know, I didn't feel very good about the ending, and that's the point.
Like you didn't like it, or you didn't feel good like watching it? Okay.
Both. Like I don't, but at the same time, I didn't know what I wanted. And then at the end of the episode,
of it. I really liked the discomfort.
I do like it now. At the end of this episode, there was a little director segment talking about like just the adaptation of how to really do a story like this justice, and I think they did a good job. Hearing like the character or like the actors and actresses and whatnot talk about like everything, it was pretty good. I feel like I would enjoy. I feel like this story is more enjoyed as a video game.
Yeah,
I think being able to experience these beats as you're like the person the consequences are happening to. It is
so long, you do feel like you are going across the country.
Right.
Whereas in the show, even though it is amazing, I love this show, it feels like you get vignettes.
Right.
Like here and there. And I think one of the things for me, at the beginning of this episode, when Joel was like back to his like fatherly ways, it felt a little jarring to me. And I think that's because we got like kind of 3 straight episodes of Joel just being sick.
Right.
Because we got episode 5, he got hit in leaving Jackson. 6 was the Left Behind episode, and then 7 was
I think
episode
7
6, 7, and then 8 was with David when he did like get better, but then he wasn't with Ellie almost at all that episode. And so we got a long time without any interaction between them. And that's when we were talking about the Left Behind episode, and I said, I wonder if they could have placed this better. Thinking back, I'm like, I feel like they could have, because there was so much time without them together that then when they are back together and Joel is that fatherly figure, it's a little bit jarring, but then when I think back, it does make sense.
Right. And like, again, that's where the weird modern streaming like setup and like it's a pattern that every show has to fill, like spanning back to like WandaVision, that really kicked everything off. It's like start with a super strong episode and like introduce all your characters, and then like episodes 2, 3, and 4 all have their own plot lines that they introduce, and then by the end you can't really clean everything up. And in this one, they clean everything up, but there's more development that needed to happen. Yeah. Like they got to their end, but they didn't, like the progress of getting there is what we're missing.
I don't want this to be like a Walking Dead type show where it was like 22 episodes in a season, and it didn't need to be that.
Mhm.
But I wanted at least maybe like 3 more episodes to make some of the arcs maybe 2-episode arcs, so we get to like go with their surroundings. It flows more from episode to episode.
I don't know. I don't think there's really a finite way to label that.
I wanted one more episode with Sam and Henry, because I wanted the first time with them ending with the sewer, because that is a huge segment in the game that gets them really close to Sam and Henry, and then they just skip past it in the show.
That's fair. If they did that though, then people would just be more upset with the like resolution of that plot. I think so. If they gave old people another episode to get attached to Sam and Henry, it would have hit, but I feel like they would have been just more upset rather than
but
like
it just felt like, oh, you introduce a new character in this episode, and then they die immediately at the end of the episode.
And introducing like a small amount of characters or more episodes in that way also unbalances everything. Where even if it's rushed, for the most part, every episode of Last of Us tells its own story. And it's always an open book, and then it closes it. If you had suddenly one of the arcs was 2 episodes long, it would have felt like a massive chunk that wasn't that massive for the actual story, and I don't think it would have balanced itself out.
I just mean I wanted more of the season to be separated and to be more fleshed out. That was just an example of like one arc I wanted fleshed out more. But there are other examples I can think of.
Even in that situation, though, I think if you were to take any of the arcs and flesh them out more, you would get to the point where you have more Joel and Ellie interactions, but it's only 40 more minutes of Joel and Ellie interactions, and I don't think that would really take. Yeah. Or that's not the step they're missing to.
Yeah, and I am criticizing this a lot. Again, I love this show. I thought it did do an amazing job with each episode. You can go back to any other episode that's past 2 months, and I've been raving about it. Those raves are still valid, still the same.
It's easily the best video game adaptation in the media that we've seen.
Hey, Sonic.
Man, I don't know how do I break this to you? We got 25 seconds, by the way.
Good show. Any predictions for season 2?
No, I'll probably end up playing the game before that even comes out.
I'm replaying part 2 right now.
I feel like that's going to be the same for a lot of people, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. All
show.
The creators and all the performers and all the cast and crew, it's amazing. I just look forward to see what's coming next.
I agree.
But we're back. I was about to end the recording. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. That was our Last of Us talk. Let's go ahead.
Let's get into the movies.
Yes.
March Movie Madness. Mm-hmm. Our first movie is probably the smallest of these.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, if we are doing every single March movie, let me just say this. Champions. Not great.
You walked out of it.
Moving on.
No. We're not moving 65. On. You walked out of Champions.
Yeah, because it was bad.
All right.
And I had better things to do with my time.
Editor, please add a tally to the movies that Anthony has walked out of. That doesn't justify leaving a movie in the middle, though.
It does.
People who do that and then have opinions on that movie, I think...
I have opinions for the first half.
It has to be really bad if you're gonna claim that, and I don't think that's very fair.
I have opinions on the first half of that movie.
And do you have opinions on the first half of In the Heights?
I do.
Anthony, I don't know. It's just disappointing. I don't know.
You disappoint me, Austin.
Anyways.
65.
Okay. Yeah, 65. We got
Guys,
Adam
we really
Driver.
Don't hate each other.
This movie had a lot of
That's when you say you don't hate me.
This movie had a lot of potential. It's a very I would have okay.
The Adam Driver dinosaur movie.
Immediately I will say movie's not very good. Shocker. I would have much preferred to be in the pitch meeting for whoever wrote this idea and came up with it. Somehow trying to make future aesthetic work while also having it be dinosaurs, and it's a weird cross of sci-fi and prehistoric,
and not high budget either. Very mid budget.
Yeah. It's an interesting pitch that if it was zany enough, it could have worked, but it was so boring, man.
This movie tried to be two things at once.
Mm-hmm.
A fun action movie.
Mm-hmm.
That part kind of worked, not very much. And then a drama. about a man
Yeah.
trying to deal
Lost in space.
Yeah, lost in space, trying to get home to his sick daughter.
The only way this movie was better or would be better is if Pedro Pascal was Adam Driver, because him taking care of a young girl who lost, or a young child who lost their parents, is very hot right now.
This is the second Adam Driver bus driver movie too.
Is it?
Yeah, the first is Patterson.
I've not seen Patterson, but I don't know. I don't know why like the old disheveled man who like lost his daughter.
Hey.
Man, I don't know, man. It doesn't even matter. That's in reference specifically to Last of Us, to Stranger Things, to I guess not really Mandalorian. Mandalorian didn't really have anything he lost. But anyways, just
His
like
face.
I guess so. I also shout out to those who've been watching Mandalorian season 3.
I have not.
I tried.
I watched the first. Oh, you did try?
I got like 20 minutes in, and
Did you get to the pirate part in space?
No.
I hate that part.
I've
only seen the first or part of the second episode.
Mm-hmm. I've not seen much of it.
Yeah, just go watch Ted Lasso instead.
I'm really trying, guys. I'm trying. I watched the first episode of Andor.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah.
Probably better, but I'm running out of patience.
Yeah.
Anyways,
65.
Yes.
I agree with you. It's not that great. I would still give it a semi like positive score, but just barely. Like I'd say maybe a 60.
I think I
like,
gave it
above average.
I gave it a 2.5 on Letterboxd, which
Yeah.
isn't terrible, but it's like
it's not terrible. Like,
I don't plan on watching this movie again.
If you're interested, I would say go check it out.
If you like dinosaurs, honestly, this movie didn't really do dinosaurs that well.
It didn't.
They were really boring. They were all like there's a T-Rex.
There was basically one kind of dinosaur, and then the
Yeah.
big boss was the bigger version of that dinosaur.
Exactly. There is like I feel like for dinosaur fans out there could have been so much more representation. But it's all right.
Yeah, this movie, when it wants to be a fun, like cheesy action movie, it works for the most part. But then when it tries to be dramatic, it does not work at all because those two tones do not mesh well.
This movie would have done much better if they didn't give like very much back. If it immediately started on the crash.
Oh, it was
we didn't
much
get
exposition
that, like,
at the beginning.
There was like they sat there and forced the visual effects team to create a whole universe and to put them on a planet.
We need to tell people what's happening. They can't figure it out for themselves.
The moment you give your sci-fi galaxy world an actual name and make it like weird and alien, is the step you've gone too far into world building for a dinosaur movie.
Star Wars.
So
do you know who produced this?
No.
Sam Raimi.
Ugh. I don't like Sam Raimi. Hot take.
Yeah. I haven't seen Evil Dead, but everything else, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, well, the Spider-Mans are all right, but they're also like they're objectively terrible. I enjoy watching them, but they're not good movies, but I love watching them.
If you want my opinions on it, go near when Spider-Man No Way Home was coming out. I bashed on those movies.
You did.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Rightly so. Especially that toxic relationship.
There's not a lot of good lessons.
But
to be learned
this movie isn't that great. How would you rate it?
I'd give it like a 55.
Would you want to do the Rotten Tomatoes scores for all these? Just very quickly.
If you can look it up.
We're 20 minutes in. We're good. We got 3 more movies.
I'll give you 30 seconds to get to the score.
All right. Give me the score.
I think the audience or the critics is going to be 45.
Okay.
The audience is going to be 61.
So 45 and 61?
Yep.
Awesome. For critics, you said 45%.
I did.
The actual score is 35%.
Sheesh.
The consensus: sodden sci-fi that somehow finds a way to bungle Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs.
That's
65
true.
is closer to 0. For audience, you said 61.
Yeah.
The actual score, 64.
I'm so good at this game, dude.
Although it's silly, predictable, and sort of slow. It is kind of slow.
Yeah.
65's...
they spend like 20 minutes in a cave with
That
no
is true.
dinosaurs.
That is true. I keep thinking of that cave part. 65's missed opportunities are mostly balanced out by solid survival thriller action.
Not really. He falls in quicksand
parts.
in a dinosaur movie.
Oh, that quicksand part.
He falls
I
in quicksand.
hated
It's a
that.
dinosaur movie. Put dinosaurs in it, dude. And like, it's an interesting choice to have the orphan character in this not speak the same language, but you have 2 characters in your movie. There's got to be some sort of dialogue between them, but most of the time it's just awkward mistranslations.
Yeah. It was 90 minutes. It was fast.
It wasn't though. It felt like the longest
No,
hour and a half
that,
movie ever.
that is true. I just meant that like
Objectively, it didn't
short.
take up that much time, but
But the subjective time
exactly
was very. It did feel 65 million years long.
nice.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
Wait, did you give a rating?
I did.
Okay.
I don't know, like 55 or something.
Oh yeah, I just
Probably
don't
less.
listen to you. Scream
All right.
is our is our next movie.
What's
Scream
going on
6.
today, Anthony? Do we need to talk? We'll talk after the show. Anyways, go on.
I don't want to talk to you.
Okay.
Scream 6
Keep making a scene.
is our next movie.
Scream 6?
Yes.
What'd you think of Scream 6?
I did not scream. 0 out of 10.
I did not scream as well.
0 out of 10.
0 out of 10.
All right, moving on. No, this movie.
1 second, Anthony. We're 20 minutes in. We're at good pace. Let's take a deep breath. Stop talking so fast.
Yeah, we got through the not so 65.
So Scream.
Scream, the 6th movie in the franchise. You've seen 3 of those movies.
Yeah.
I've seen now 2 of those movies.
Have you only seen 5? You didn't
I've
see
only
one.
seen 5. I watched half of one.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got the time wrong, and then I had to go to my showing of Scream 5.
Nice.
And then I just never picked it up again.
Fair enough.
What did you think of this? Being the Scream fanatic that you are.
Well, as the Scream fanatic that I am, this movie was incredibly boring. And it's like Scream 5 was the requel or whatever they called it. It's like the reboot of the sequel.
Yeah, and this one's like, we're in a franchise now.
Because
the 6th one.
The whole appeal of Scream is that it's a meta like comedy on horror films. Scream 1 did a really good job with it. It was,
and it was
really
so
funny,
scary,
and it was
too.
original. It was scary. It was a good horror movie. It was a good horror comedy, and they did a good job of balancing that. 5, I thought was actually decent.
I did too.
I've
yeah.
not seen 2, 3, or 4, but seeing
hear-
5 and just like the general knowledge that I know of those movies,
I hear 3 is the best, I think. Anyway.
I heard 2 is the best. I know 2 is famously like one of the sequels that's better than the original.
I think just people love each one, but like everyone has their own favorite, I guess.
Right. And this franchise now is very much made for people who are fans of the whole franchise.
Yeah. You better watch all of them before you watch this.
To the point where it is literally like a plot device. And it's just it's not bad. I think 5 did it better because 5 was able to lean more into modern horror tropes, and they were able to play with like modern expectations.
And even just modern movie tropes,
right?
Too, and just going back to the required viewings, Austin and I turned to each other multiple times during this movie. And it's like, do you know who this is, or do you know what they're referring to? No idea. Okay, it was probably in one of the other ones that we didn't watch. I do agree with you about Scream 5. They did a very good job of leaning into tropes while also commenting on it, and especially with the killers in that one. In this one, I think they have some good scenes that are thrilling, or even not thrilling, like a bit suspenseful, but ultimately it's very bad writing. One of the things, I was not able to guess the killers, and usually that's a good thing because they're like, oh, they were smart. Like, the writing wise, they were smart about it. They hit it well. But no, it's because it came out of nowhere that they give you no lead up to it. It made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they expected you to buy into it. And that's not what you should do, especially for a murder mystery. And one of them was completely obvious, but for all the wrong reasons, too.
Right. This movie definitely falls into the, like, Scooby-Doo reveal where it's after everything like is supposed to make sense, and if your horror reveal is the key to like everything, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation to have of how much should an audience member be able to predict.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to be super obvious, but the pieces should still be there for you to be able to put together. If
I would say something like Knives Out does a good job at it.
Well, they do name a character Ransom in that, so I don't know how subtle, but.
Well, they weren't super subtle with it, but it was still, I guess,
it was
because,
well done because it doesn't take the whole movie for the actual mystery part.
And they do a red herring, I guess, in the middle of it, saying, "Oh, is this person?"
Right. But still, that is a good example of like
subverting expectations,
inclusive horror like mystery that strives to have multiple parts that the
I
audience
would
can't
say
pick apart
even
with.
Death on the Nile, not even a great movie, but when
I did like all of those movies are a good time.
yeah, they were a good time. And The Killers, I put it together myself because I knew I just knew how like these movies go. But when it was revealed, I was like, oh, that I like that, and they set it up well. They gave me the clue so I could figure out for myself too. Like I
Right.
was the detective along with them. And this is like, no, we're not going to give you any clues. We're just going to give you Ghostface killing people. But I don't know. Like I said, some of the scenes were suspenseful, like the gas station scene, or not the gas station,
Yeah.
but just the market scene.
Yeah.
I really like that. There's a scene with a ladder, which isn't the most suspenseful, but it works for the most part.
One of the problems that this movie suffers from is static characters as well.
They're all static.
The main character is the main character from the last one,
Sam.
along with
Sam
and Tara, Jenna Ortega's character. That I imagine with Wednesday and everything else that Jenna Ortega's blowing up
Is
about.
Jenna Ortega like adopted? Because the whole thing with Sam's character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Her character.
Oh, do
I
you
was like,
not?
I don't know.
Let's go into the actor gossip. No, because Sam's whole deal is that she's haunted by her father Stu.
I think they're like stepsisters or something.
I think so, because it wouldn't make sense for only her to get those like premonitions.
That's true, but also nothing makes sense. It's the Scream franchise, so
but
they can
also
do whatever
like
they want.
Stu was killed before she was even born, so I don't know. But
Well, she's not Stu's kid. She was
oh no, the other
Billy Loomis.
Billy's kid. But even then, like, I feel like that is an interesting like plot point, and they did not really do anything with it.
Nope.
One of the big like messages they had in this movie between those two sisters, they introduced it in the beginning. Forget all about it in the sake of Ghostface killing people, and then remembered at the last minute and shoehorned it in. And I hate it when a movie tries to shoehorn a message in when there's nothing alluding to it earlier.
Well, there's an interesting path that this movie could have gone down that would have been fairly interesting. But they just kind of drag their feet on it, and then do you want to go into spoilers for this movie? Because I feel like we're going to take a lot more time on our next.
That's fair. How would you rate this?
I would give this movie like a 65, maybe.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'd give it a 65 too.
It's
what's the Rotten
fairly
Tomatoes
mediocre. Critics is going to be 68.
68.
Audience is going to be 76.
All right. Austin, for critics, you said 68%.
Yep.
The actual score with 263 reviews, 77%.
Should have gone 70s. Okay.
Yeah. The consensus. Certain aspects of horror's most murderously meta franchise may be going stale, but the change of setting and some inventive set pieces help keep Scream 6 reasonably sharp. How did you feel about the setting of New York? Do you think they implemented it well?
I think it was kind of unnecessary, but
I really liked the change going into it, because I'm like, oh, whole new place, and it's like this huge city.
Well, the frustrating thing is that the city doesn't, like, the only interesting part was the subway. Otherwise, every other location in this movie could have been anywhere else.
I was going to say that. Going in, I was really excited for what was to come, but then in the movie, like you said, it could have been at anywhere else.
They didn't know Home Alone 2.
Really, exactly. They didn't really use New York to its full advantage. And then the audience score. You said 78%?
Yeah.
Would you like to change that?
No, I'll stay.
The actual score, with over 2,500 verified ratings, 92%. Building upon the prequel and even improving on it with the lovable core 4 and some gnarly kills, this sequel is a total scream. The kills are gnarly. I'll give them that.
Are they? I don't even remember.
I'm thinking of one
right
specific one. With the spoilers in 3.
Spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
With the therapist.
I guess that wasn't very cool.
It wasn't cool, but it was gnarly.
I guess he just shoved him into a door.
It was super lame. Like I'm not arguing that.
Yeah,
but
I don't know if that was not gory.
It was.
Like the most was
stabbed in the eye.
He got stabbed in the nose. They even say a line about that.
Oops.
It's really lame.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? This movie sucks. But
60.
the one guy
Okay.
who the kid being the killer, who had nothing else to do in the movie except for just hang around. It was clear they weren't just gonna have a character just hang around. It was clear he was gonna be a killer.
Right.
And having the cop be the killer and then the dead daughter come back,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I couldn't see this coming because it was written so poorly. Like you didn't like get one over on me. You just being bad writers.
Right.
What were you gonna talk about?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just completely lost my train of
Yeah.
thought. I was thinking about a scene from the movie.
And how like crazy they were acting at the end, like "Ha, we got them!" Especially the cop.
We're in spoilers now. The main thing that I'm upset about is that the movie starts with like Sam going into therapy about like the influence that Billy has on her and that she keeps seeing people and that she enjoyed killing people in the last movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, is she going to like kind of turn to her dark side or whatever?
Exactly,
and then it's like her
yeah.
kind of grappling with whether or not she is Billy's kid or not whether or not like literally, but spiritually.
Yeah.
And whether or not she like it's a problem that she gets a thrill out of killing people. And then you get the whole like movie arc. She's barely in it. And then at the end, she puts on her like Billy's costume and uses his knife to like hunt the dad.
Yeah, and then they're like happy ending.
And then like it's like okay, awesome. Sam embraced Ghostface and Billy, and that's super interesting. Having
was
like a more
interesting.
like dark protagonist in this kind of like meta story that we've not really had
Yeah.
before, where
Also,
Ghostface is
the
the
beginning
protagonist.
with them like showing the reveal, like, oh, we're gonna show you who the killer is. I'm like, that is such an interesting way to like
I thought it was
go
interesting,
at
but I know it wasn't gonna
a
last.
Scream movie. I just hoped it did because
Yeah.
I'm like, this is how you go even more meta in a different way, and then just killed off.
But all that being said, Sam puts on the Ghostface costume and like fully commits to stabbing this dude 1,000,000 times, and she enjoys it. And then like all the ambulance shows up and everybody shows up, and she like has the Ghostface like mask and she in her like a bag that she's holding, and so I'm like, okay, she's gonna zip it up and walk away,
Yeah.
and then she drops it on the floor.
She's like, I'm done.
Like
Goodbye.
I don't dropping it on the floor and walking away is exactly where she started this movie.
Yeah.
in.
I at one point spoilers for Fight Club.
I've not seen Fight Club.
You haven't?
No, don't.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, sorry. I don't want to mess up your point, but I do want to see Fight Club.
It was
I've not seen
it was
yet.
a very good point.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're full of those.
What? Thank you.
No
I'm gonna
problem.
take that as a win.
It is a win.
Yeah. Do you have any more thoughts on Scream 6?
I don't think I have any more. Nope.
Bad thoughts. All right.
I don't
Let's
have bad thoughts.
let's move on
Everybody's thought.
to our next movie, and that is the Rough and Tumble, Creed 3.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Like, let's get ready to rumble.
Creed 3.
Creed 3. You watched them all before this.
Yes, not the Rocky movies, but I did
All of
binge
them.
Creed
You watched
1.
all the Harry Potter movies. You watched.
Well,
all the
famously, I
Rocky
love
movies.
doing my homework.
Yeah, of course. You just watched all the Fast and Furious,
On
thinking
accident.
it was like Rocky. Like,
Yeah, I thought there was a crossover somewhere. Excuse me. I did watch Creed 1. I watched Creed 2 before watching Creed 3 because I don't know. There's something about those movies that really like seemed interesting to me, and I wanted to understand everything before going into Creed 3. Because originally we weren't even going to do an episode on it in the first place.
Yeah.
But like the trailers kind of got me pumped, which I do have.
Well, I was making sure
I-
we were going to do an episode.
I do have a criticism about the trailers as well, which is my normal criticism about trailers.
showing too much.
Yeah, there's like every fight is in the trailer, dude. You know what's gonna happen.
Not the beginning.
Yes, it is.
It is. No, it's not.
Not the beginning, but nobody.
Hey, I got you there.
If the most important part of your movie is in your trailer, there's a problem.
That's fair. That's
Um,
true.
But I watched Creed 3. You watched Creed 3.
I did.
Anthony, what did I started the other two? What did you think of Creed 3?
I loved this movie. Every Creed movie I see, for me, it just like tops the last one, and I'm not sure if this is the best one. I'm gonna say it's the best one. It is just so good, especially with Jonathan Majors,
Mhm.
his turn as the villain in this Kang 2.0, the better Kang. He like him as a villain is not only just super interesting, super awesome, but having him have a personal connection to Adonis and having this movie be so personal instead of, oh, I need to defend my heavyweight belt or I want to be the top of like I want to be the champion.
Mhm.
Instead, it's this fight between brothers, and that is so interesting. And I think they do a really good job at it. I don't think it's perfect in any way. I think the third act is very rushed, and I wanted them to spend more time with it. But aside from that, I really enjoyed this movie. What about you?
I agree. I think this movie is by far the best of the three. I think. Whenever I saw it, or whenever we saw that one together, right?
No, we saw Scream, but we
Scream.
talked about it together.
Okay, right. I talked to you about comparing this kind of to this, like the MCU Spider-Man trilogy, where, like in this situation, Rocky would be Iron Man, and there's like the first two movies for Spider-Man and the first two movies of Creed have heavy influences of the whole Rocky franchise, and like they're very dependent on Rocky and Apollo,
which does make sense.
It does, and it works, and those movies are still good. But this movie, there's no Sylvester Stallone, besides him like producing it.
And then hating on it.
It fully like comes into its own form.
It does.
I think having a personal villain was a really, really good choice, because this felt like Creed's movie.
It felt like the natural progression for what this franchise should be.
I agree. And I think it worked super duper well. I think it was able to tell a really good story with Creed, and just like how he moves like forward past boxing, because he starts in this movie retired. And it's like, it's interesting to see like these time skips do so well as well, because they seem just kind of natural.
Yeah.
And like all the characters except for Sylvester Stallone comes back. And I don't know, I brought this up to you, and there whenever we get into the spoilers, I'll talk about it a little more, because I'm not going to spoil anything. But there's a specific moment that I thought in this movie was meant for Sylvester Stallone.
Oh,
and you said he's not, or like it's
he was
been
never
telegraphed.
going to be in this.
That doesn't make me watching Creed 1 and 2 in no way like retires Rocky.
I think it does. I haven't seen it in a while, but I felt like that was the natural end for Rocky, and they even said that in their like promotional tours, even after the movie came out. Like, yeah, this is like the goodbye to Rocky.
I guess it's a goodbye to Rocky, but on a narrative level, it doesn't make sense for Rocky to not be a part of Creed's life anymore. I think
that's
like
fair.
Even if he wasn't, and I still think he shouldn't be playing like an influential role in this movie at all. I think that was still done super well.
Yeah.
But I feel like having him in it, like, I don't know, it's conflicting, because I really do like that this movie has nothing to do with Rocky himself, and that like mentor figure is out of the picture and it's just Creed now. I don't know, because I feel like it felt weird suddenly having Sylvester Stallone gone.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Because I don't think that was telegraphed in the second one. It seemed like in the second one they have their like differences, and they even stop talking for a little bit, but that's resolved in the end of the second one. So it just kind of seems like they're going to move on healthily and continue on like separately, but in each other's lives.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it still works good the way it is.
I don't have that gripe with that movie. I think because I did watch these movies when they came out, so I have had time to accept like, okay, Rocky's not in this. It does feel like a lot of time has passed anyway. I keep wanting to go back to Jonathan Majors. They do such a good job with him as a villain. Like, you see how, like, just how menacing he is. Not only like physically imposing,
right,
but you can see whenever like there's a close up of him, he's always calculating his next move. He knows what he's going to do next and how he can take Creed down. Yeah. And it's done so well, except for the third act, which it's still done well.
I don't really have that big of a problem with the third act.
I just think, let's
do this and go to spoilers. I'd give this movie like a 93 probably.
Yeah, I'd give it 87 to a 90, around there. What's our Rotten Tomatoes score?
Critics, I hope it's high. It's going to probably be like 89.
Okay.
Audience, they probably also liked it. I'm going to say 87. I'm just going to shoot in the same spot.
89, 87?
Yeah.
All right. For Creed 3, you said 89% for critics.
I
With
did.
308 reviews, it is 89%. Right on, Austin.
Come on.
You are 3 for 3, of course.
Yeah.
Stepping out from Rocky Balboa's iconic shadow at last, the Creed franchise reasserts its champion status thanks to star Michael B. Jordan's punchy direction and a nuanced heel turn by Jonathan Majors. By the way, This is Michael B. Jordan's first movie.
That's true. That was
And
directorial
he
debut.
does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, before we get into spoilers, this is a boxing movie. We haven't even talked about the fights.
Oh,
The fights are really well done and really well choreographed. Michael B. Jordan says he had an anime influence, and you can tell, not even with the fights, but with the story.
Well, the story for sure, definitely. Like, there's a lot of fights or like specific moments in one of the first fights. There's like a slow motion where he focuses on the side.
I have seen discourse about that online, and like some people didn't like it, some people did like it. It worked for me.
It worked for me.
Yeah.
Let's see what those audience members.
Yes, audience. What did you say?
I said 87.
87, with over 5,000 verified ratings.
Higher.
The actual score is. Do you want to change it?
Don't say that. No, I'm gonna do 87. But if I'm wrong, it was 93. So.
All right, it was 96.
Okay,
I should have gone. You're close. A great directing debut.
Nice.
Yeah, a great directing debut for Michael B. Jordan. Creed 3 has more than enough action and emotion to satisfy Rocky fans, even without Stallone in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree. I think this movie kind of puts a good tie. I imagine there'll be more because it's making money.
It was a little weird, even though it is a Creed movie, having him be in L.A. the entire time and not in Philadelphia, where the franchise starts.
I think that works.
It does work. I think that's, but I was like,
important.
Man, I kind of miss Philly.
I don't. I wasn't.
It's Always Sunny in
I didn't watch Rocky.
Though. Yeah.
Weird reference, but yes.
What if he went against the Trash Man?
He'd lose. That's the fourth villain is Danny DeVito.
He just throws a trash can at my.
Yeah, he starts eating the garbage. He's a trash man.
I'm the trash man. Anyway, spoilers in 5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
Do we? Okay, I guess I'll talk about my thing first because I don't have much.
Go into your thing.
But in this movie, there is a plot line with Creed's mother, where she has she's been having either like seizures or stroke. I'm not sure what specific medical problem it was, but it was something that was risking her life.
It was a stroke,
and she didn't take it she took it seriously, but you could tell she was kind of shoving it off.
Yeah.
And then halfway through the movie, around the midpoint,
just like a random call,
she died.
She's gone.
I texted Anthony and I was like, that was almost definitely supposed to be Rocky. Because in the second movie, you figure out he has cancer.
Yeah. I might be wrong. Because it does feel like it should be Rocky.
By the end of the second movie, it recedes and everything's fine again. But I feel like that was a plot device they wanted to use for the third one. So that Rocky helps him with his first fight. He wins. But then Rocky passes away. And now he has to fight Jonathan Majors on his own. And that's what settles him into Creed.
By the way, that last fight with it just being on their own. I told you that when I was watching it, I was like, this is awesome, but I'm a little bummed because I wanted it to just be a fight between these two brothers.
Yeah.
And right as I was thinking it, it turned into a fight just between these two brothers.
Yeah.
I almost wanted it to be the kid actors from the beginning fighting.
Yeah.
Because that would have been...
I don't know.
That might have been overdoing it. But I also think that could have been interesting. But yeah, that last fight was so well done.
I agree. I think it was,
and even the conversation afterwards.
Yes, I think there was this movie did a very good job at actually closing out its plot line. I think all the characters had very clear goals, and whether or not those goals were accomplished or not, I think everything was tied up very well.
Do you think Jonathan Majors will be in the next one as family?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
I want
Vin Diesel and John Cena.
Yes. And they're gonna be Creed's lost brothers.
Yeah, definitely.
I want there to be a new franchise with Creed's daughter.
Yeah, it's fairly inevitable, but I think it'll be cool.
Oh yeah, by the way, his daughter and Tessa Thompson, they do a great job in this movie, as always.
Yeah, they just continue to knock it out of the park.
I love how it's not because anytime there's a sequel with a romantic couple, it's there's marital problems, and there are problems, but they still love each other the entire time and work it out, and they're by each other's side the entire time. That was so refreshing. It's thank you.
I think if they lean into that too hard, it would have been very distracting.
It would have been very melodramatic too.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad. I don't know. Across the board, narratively, I think as far as you can go with boxing movies, this did a really good job.
Yeah. Let's move on to the most recent movie
our final movie.
Our March Movie Madness, and that is
Shazam!
Fury of the Gods.
The second one.
The second one, yes. What are your opinions on the first one?
When I saw the first one, I was very deep into MCU and whatnot, and so
Yeah.
I wasn't a big DC fan. Shazam was the exception. I think it did a really
Yes.
good job of it was a very interesting and unique
Not
idea.
Suicide Squad.
It wasn't boring. It
the
wasn't.
David Ayer one.
It was actually pretty funny. It was an interesting concept.
Yeah.
And I think it was done well. It definitely had its flaws and it wasn't perfect, but as far as DC goes, it did a good job holding its own.
I would go as far as say I loved the first Shazam.
I wouldn't say I loved it
because it was this mid-budget for a superhero movie.
Yeah.
But movie, and it had a heart to it of this kid just not feeling like he belongs anywhere because he was abandoned by his mom, and then this found family aspect of it, and what happens when you give a kid superpowers. And I do agree, Zachary Levi does not do a good job of acting like Billy Batson.
That's true.
And there is a weird, jarring disconnect, but it's good. It's fun. It's funny. There's even some creepy parts in the first one.
Yeah.
And then this movie came out.
Yeah, it did.
It kind of said, "Oh, your favorite part about the first movie was the heart. Let's take that out."
Yeah.
Instead, it's I don't hate this movie. For me, I describe this as a lot of recent superhero movies try to capture that feeling of oh, it's a Saturday morning cartoon. Like Thor, I would even say Black Adam to an extent does it.
Yeah.
And this movie also does it, but it works for the most part of trying to capture that Saturday morning feel because it is this it's this weird superhero that's a kid who turns into this adult man and has superpowers. And so that does work as that Saturday morning feel. It is fun for the most part. There are some really bad moments, some really atrocious writing, especially with product placement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the ending.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, they even spoiled it in the marketing.
I got you.
Yeah. What did you think of this movie?
It wasn't good.
All right. Anyway,
this movie was I don't know. I don't know if I didn't have the patience for it that day or anything. It wasn't. Ultimately, it works a little bit. I don't think it was the worst superhero movie in the world. I think it had a lot of things possibly going for it that it kind of fell flat on. I feel like everything was the full effort wasn't put in. I think a lot of the narrative elements of it just kind of fell flat. There's a single moment in this movie that took it down a star for me. And
is it a spoiler moment?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about it. But I will be talking about it when we get to spoilers.
One of the things I really didn't like about this movie, that is not spoilers, are the villains.
I agree.
Because a few of them are okay, I see where you're going, and it's fine. But some of them are just, oh, I'm evil for the sake of being evil.
Yeah.
And this movie feels like it was made in the early 2000s. They found it, they dusted it off, and they released it this year.
That's fair.
It's a relic from the past, in good ways and bad ways, especially with the villains. It's very weird and very jarring. Their motivations make no sense, and they try to explain it, but it still doesn't work.
I agree. I think I don't know. It's really hard to write superhero villains or supervillains these days, I guess. Or at least there's not a lot of effort being put into it because.
Well, I disagree with that because you do have so many examples of well-written villains.
Well, we do, but I think there's such a high bar with them, and it is really difficult to write a well-balanced villain that you still you're compassionate for, but they need to be stopped, and there needs to be a justifiable reason for them to be stopped.
I would say aim for Killmonger, hit not Hawkeye, the Vulture in Homecoming, because he's still a really good villain, but he's barely in it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
that's also just MCU villains in terms of just antagonists in general. It is it's hard to write a perfect foil for your main character.
Yeah.
But ultimately, all that to say, I do agree that these villains kind of suck.
Yeah, and I think it's a direct result of The Rock. Honestly, Black Adam should have been the villain. of this.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that would have been a little more interesting. I don't think it would have been
Because he
acted
is-
very much better, but
Well, he is the main antagonist of Shazam, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of Black Adam, during this movie, I thought of your comments on Black Adam, specifically the Minecraft flying.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it came back
It
with
did.
its triumphant return with Shazam.
I don't know. The visual effects in this movie are also just
Yeah.
kind of whack. This movie, I watched the trailers probably once, and you see one moment, and all of the trailer ignites in your brain, and all the neurons connect.
Was
and you're
it
like,
I threw a truck at a dragon. I love my life.
just everything.
Yeah.
Like the truck, the whole tree scene, like everything that
scene?
happened. The tree. You like that? It's like the main thing that happens.
Tell me Are you
Okay.
talking about like the ending?
Kinda.
Like
we'll talk about it in the
their
spoilers.
main goal.
But like
Yeah.
trailers spoil everything now. That was really disappointing because there's not really a
Yeah.
lot of story to tell here in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, no, there is a story to tell, but they just don't tell it
But that's fair.
because at the beginning, one of the big things is that Billy is about to turn 18, which
Yeah.
means he's about to age out of the foster system. He had this found family in the first one, and now he feels like he's losing it because everyone's becoming their own person,
Right.
and he wants to keep them together. And then, like Scream, where they had this story at the beginning, they completely forego it for, hey, action, villains, whatever, and then bring it back at the last minute. What's his name? The main brother who has the crutch.
Fred.
Freddie. I was trying to think of the actor's name. It's like something
I'm
Dylan
not sure.
Grazer. At the beginning, he was acting very manic, and I was like, I do not like this like direction. But then as he went on, I was like, this is a very compelling character that they are sidelining a lot.
Yep.
And they do a lot of interesting things with him that they just throw away by the end. And it's like, man, I wish he was the main character.
I agree. I think there's a lot more story to. It also doesn't really feel like Billy Batson's movie.
No, because
And
like
that's kind of the
one of the main
point.
concerns, or not concerns, criticisms with the first movie was that there was a big disconnect between Billy Batson and Shazam,
Right.
and their fix for this was not fixing the acting on one side or another, which they should have fixed Zachary Levi's.
Right. It's just leave
It
him in
was-
Shazam mode.
Yeah,
as long
leave
as
him in
possible.
Shazam mode and have Billy Batson on screen for like 5 minutes, if even that.
I don't know. It was all done dirty, and
It was
then, like
disappointing.
it's also. Well, I get. Do you want to get into spoilers?
Yeah,
Let's do scores.
how would you rate this?
40.
I'd probably give it like a 57. Oh, you know what? I want to, after a lot of
35.
deliberation, I want to change my 65 rating. I
Okay.
want to give it a 65.
Okay. thank you for the input.
You're welcome.
Okay.
That's not a bit whatsoever.
Okay.
But Shazam, yeah, I'd probably give it a 57.
Do you want to do the last Rotten Tomatoes today?
Yeah.
All right. What do you think?
Oh, I'm doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
The first one I think was in the 90s, so I'll say it's still fresh, but not. I would say 62%.
62 for critic.
Yeah. For audience, it bombed at the box office, so hardly anyone saw it. I'll say 86.
Okay. So what was your critic?
62, 86.
62, 86. The
Can you get to 70 for audience?
70 for audience.
Yeah.
From 86.
Yeah.
So 62.
Yeah.
Is what you said for critics. The
Yes.
actual critic score is 52%.
Ooh.
It is not
okay.
fresh. The more unfocused and less satisfying than its predecessor, Shazam! Fury of the Gods still retains almost enough of the source material's silly charm to save the day. I don't
Yeah.
think it really saves the day. But
I think it has not a good amount, but it has some of it, but it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have enough.
the audience score.
Yes.
Your score is 70.
70.
The actual score is 87%.
Man,
you shouldn't have changed.
I
You were one
should've-
off.
I was.
I was with 1,000 verified ratings. And then the critic scores as well was 193, if that matters. But audience seemed to like it a lot more than the critics did.
Yeah,
I
probably
did.
because no one saw it, so only the people who wanted to see it did.
That is definitely true, actually.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do spoilers, though.
In
Before, just thank you all for listening. If
Thank
you're
you.
dropping out here.
Next week, we will be reviewing John Wick, Chapter 4.
I got to watch the third one.
It's really good. I really like it. There's one thing that happens that I'm like, what? But okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mysterious.
I think you'll know it when you see it, because it's kind of funny.
Okay, but thank you all. Check us out at That's a Wrap NCR on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
And YouTube. Give us a like, comment. Did you see any of these movies we mentioned?
Yeah.
Last of Us. Let us know what you thought.
We're throwing out a wide net here, so.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get to spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right.
So, at the end of this movie, Shazam dies.
Yeah. Oh, were you talking about the Tree of Life?
With that whole scene is in the trailer, and it's like the final act.
Yeah.
Billy Batson dies.
He dies.
Billy Batson sacrifices himself.
Dead.
In a there's a shield around where are they from? Not Philadelphia.
Philly. Yeah.
It is Philly?
It is.
Wow, we got a lot of things going on in Philadelphia today. But there's a giant bubble that the bad guys made, and then Billy Batson befriends one of the bad guys who controls it, and he's like, I have a plan. And so he tells her to shrink the bubble super small, just around the baseball stadium. I don't know why he didn't make it like a little bit smaller.
Helen Mirren's villain was so weird because she was all over the place.
They were all over
I
want
to take your friend hostage, but I really only want the seed.
Right.
But I'm still going to take him hostage.
And when you run away with the thing, I'm gonna pout and look a little upset. That was all over the place. But Billy Batson befriends her. The oldest bad, or I'm just gonna call them 1, 2, and 3.
Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Ziegler.
The oldest one is 3. The middle one is 2. She's the main bad one.
Yeah.
1 is the love interest turned good guy.
And she was all over the place too.
It was a mess. But anyways, the oldest one gets betrayed by the main bad guy number 2.
And Freddy, he turns on her once he finds out she's the villain, and then almost immediately she's like, "I love you again." Hey.
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
the dude's down bad.
He's very down bad.
But anyways, the old lady bad guy gets betrayed, and she's sitting there just kind of dead on a roof, and Billy Batson flies up to her
with a hole in her chest.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know what I don't even know what he says there, but he just kind of talks her into being his friend."
Yeah,
and she's like, he has to be stopped. And so they created a plan to make the bubble super duper tiny. And the staff from the first movie
everything will be destroyed.
I don't know.
The bubble.
The staff from the first movie is back, and it's super relevant. And I don't know why they don't just snap it again. The problem's already here, dude. But anyway, he holds it for a whole second, and then he tries to throw it to Freddy, and she just catches it, and it's like, why didn't you just snap it? Yeah. The barrier that's been holding them back is already broken. They're in front of you, dude.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a plot hole, I guess. Superhero plot holes you can't really spend too much thinking about, or else you'll hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Anyways, they make the bubble super small. Shazam or Billy Batson comes up with the idea to overcharge the spear or the staff and turn it into a little super bomb. And he does so, and it's a decently cool fight.
They ripped off the
giant
Simpsons movie.
I'm sure they did.
Have you not seen the Simpsons movie?
I haven't seen any of the Simpsons, dude.
The whole point of it is that their city is trapped under a dome.
That's a Stephen King book first, though, right?
But it was parodying Under the Dome. So.
Okay. It charges up the staff. It explodes. Super giant, flashing bright white light. And it's like, oh no, the dragon's defeated. Yippee! But where's Billy?
And they find his corpse.
And they find
By the way, his parents. The parents are so cool. Anytime they popped up, I was like, this movie gets a few more points.
I disagree. I think they were written really desperately because I feel like there's a large appeal for superhero parents who are kind of hip and cool, and I think they were written very stereotypically.
I guess I don't know. They were really good in the first one, at least. I
remember liking them in the first one, but I think it was kind of like getting the bus or battle van or whatever, and it's like
I was like, they're just being cheesy parents.
We just saw a man walk himself off the top of your school and kill himself, and you're gonna make that joke.
It also reminded me a lot of the Black Adam, Act 3 with all the skeletons instead of its monsters.
Yeah,
Taste the Rainbow.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we will.
Anyways, Billy Batson does that. He dies.
Dead.
Dead on the ground, no heartbeat. Everybody's grieving.
They bury him.
Jump cut to Mount Olympus. They dig a grave for him, and he's buried in it's the super sad funeral scene. At this point, I'm like, okay, Like, I thought there was gonna be a fake out. I thought like somebody was gonna go zzz and clear him.
He is dead. This is how they are ending.
He's full dead. Freddy takes a
DCU.
picture of them and he puts it on top of the grave and he like runs his fingers over it. It's like super sad, but I'm like, nobody's actually sat there and like been brave enough to kill a main character in the like second movie they've been in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, kudos. That's fine. I give this a 3.5.
I don't know. Even during that, I was like, they're gonna bring him back somehow. Like, I just felt so jaded at that point.
I thought they were gonna bring him back in the stadium itself, and then we got like him buried.
Yeah.
You jump cut to that. I'm like, they're doing this. And if you can't read a room, 5 seconds after they like put like Fred lays the photo down, guess who shows up behind them? Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot
the
herself.
most random cameo.
Yeah, and
Deus
it's like,
Ex Machina.
somebody's like, the only person who can give us our powers back is somebody with the power of the gods. And Wonder Woman's like, hello.
Yeah.
Um,
So, and if Wonder Woman has the power of reviving, why didn't she ever do that to her ex-boyfriend, who she kept mourning?
I don't think she had the power of reviving. I think she has the power to give God like powers back.
So if Shazam ever said Shazam again, he'd be a corpse again.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm not the one to ask, but that's how, because he pops out in Zachary Levi form. Maybe that's their secret, so they don't have to turn into a kid anymore.
Oh yeah, because he died as Billy.
Yeah, well, I think he just kind of popped out of his form. I don't really get it. But anyways,
so
they bring him back to life, and it's so incredibly cliche, and everybody
It's a call
cheers.
me.
I don't know. It was really disappointing. It's a single moment. Took my whole score down a star. I think
it did.
It would have been. It wouldn't have been that bad of a movie if they committed to it. I would have respected that goal.
Also, that post credit scene, the first one,
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah.
that the DCU or EU is over. Like, there's probably not going to be another Shazam. And even though they are continuing Walker and they are continuing Peacemaker, like, all this stuff is going to be over, done. You know that. I understand you want to keep these movies as is, even though you're not going to, like, build upon them. Just cut the post-credit scene, at least. Because you're setting up nothing, and you know you're setting up nothing.
Yeah.
Unless, I don't know, they keep Zachary Levi in the new
know.
DCU, which, who knows, they might. That's something you can probably easily transfer over.
It's all a mess, really, and you can tell that it's not the same people who are writing the characters from Peacemaker 2.
Yeah, you could really tell.
I don't know. It was kind of a mess. That's really all I have to say about Shazam.
Did you watch the second post-credit scene?
What was it?
The Dr. Sirvana and the worm again?
A little bit.
And he's
I had no
I
idea
got
what was
one
going
more
on.
thing.
I don't know. That's all I got.
We didn't talk about Skittles.
Do you want to talk about Skittles?
What's the one thing monsters are afraid of? Unicorns! Also, I did like the gag of the pencil writing down every single thing they were saying.
Yeah.
That was funny. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
It was so blatant, and then especially the taste of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to buy a bag, or not buy a bag of Skittles, just take one and burn it. Like,
Yeah.
no, that was awful product placement. I don't endorse stealing and then burning stuff. Don't do that.
It's gonna be fun sometimes. I don't know. Anyways,
that's our episode.
yeah, we got through a lot today.
We did. In a lot less time than I thought we would.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us.
Me too.
Tune in next week for John Wick,
Yeah.
Chapter 2, and further discussions
Chapter
of
4.
Ted Lasso Season 3.
You got all your numbers all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. I will thank
Wait,
you all
what
very
did
much.
I say?
You said Chapter 2.
Oh.
Come on, get it
The
together.
3-hour
Anthony.
epic.
Okay.
John Wick.
Well, thank you all very much. And
Thank you.
until next time.
That's a wrap.